At Battery Bill, we power everything by battery. It's not if an emergency happens, but when. Are you ready? Be prepared for this hurricane season. Having backup power ready for these necessities, home, refrigerator, and phone are essential for peace of mind to have uninterrupted power during an emergency. Do you need an affordable, reliable backup power solution? We have it. Goal Zero, Jackery, and EcoFlow. Reliable, innovative, and affordable. Power when you need it. Battery Bill, Mapuna-Puna, Nimitz, and Hilo. Battery Bill.
All right, how's it going, everybody? We welcome you to episode 112 here on Hawaii Football Now. Jordan Helly, Hunter Hughes alongside with you as Hawaii continues on through the 2023 season. Our guy Jaron on the controls, producing this episode of Hawaii Football Now, brought to you by Spectrum Mobile, Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union, and Battery Bill as well. Recording this Wednesday, October 18th, a little after 7 a.m. Hawaii time. Set to release this as usual Thursday of every week. That'll be tomorrow, October 19th, when this drops. And by the way, it'll drop, I believe. Jaron, correct me if I'm wrong. Edit this out. We're back on YouTube, baby. Apparently, the YouTube police have let us out of purgatory, and the ESPN Honolulu page is back. It's got a lot of the old content. It doesn't have necessarily the content that took place while the page was down. So if you're looking for some recent episodes not up there, I believe Jaron is working tirelessly to get those episodes up. We appreciate you, Jaron. We appreciate the listeners and fans as well. But we're back, baby, and I believe this week's episode should be up on YouTube. So if you're watching us elsewhere and you were a YouTube guy, you can go back to those friendly confines or just stay where you're at, I suppose. And if you're watching us on YouTube, good to see you again. This is nice. I miss Al from VA. We haven't heard from him in a while. And hopefully he's jumping back in. So that's exciting to report. And as we continue on with a little bit of the opening drive here, Hunter, yesterday was the final practice for the University of Hawaii on the grass practice field, traveling today, I believe, up to Albuquerque to take on New Mexico, the opponent this week, as they get the Lobos on Saturday, noon kickoff Hawaii time, by the way. Of course, you can listen to it right here on ESPN Honolulu, and it'll be a Spectrum pay-per-view TV game for those looking for that avenue as well. And it was kind of interesting, Hutch, because a lot of the local media kind of covered it, right? It was a nice chance to reminisce, go down memory lane. And I guess I hadn't really thought about it. Everybody kind of knew like this was going to be it, right? Because they were going to start on the Capital Project to create the track and women's soccer venue, which I think will be magnificent. Obviously, the track team has been, displaced by the expansion of the Ching complex, and Hawaii's got a proud women's track history. And then women's soccer, a chance to play on campus in a couple of years when they finish this thing. That'll be really, really cool. But a lot of reminiscing on the grass practice field. So Hunter, as a guy who's spent some time through that program, and maybe I didn't make the connection just as somebody who didn't play there. But it was kind of funny and kind of interesting. And I enjoyed a lot of the coverage of, everybody kind of talking about some of the greats that graced that field over time. And I just wondering if you kind of had some memories or some thoughts, some feelings maybe about the grass practice field going away.
A flux of emotions, to be honest, Jordan. I didn't know that was the last official practice on the field. I got kind of sad, just because the grass practice field has a completely different presence and feeling than the TC Ching Athletic Complex. It's tucked away kind of in the quarry, if you will, like beneath the student dorms, and so it remains shaded well into the morning because the hill and the dorms cover it, and it's just it's a beautiful venue. And I don't know about you, Jordan. I think the majority of guys in the NFL would agree with me. There's just something pure about a grass field and playing ball and running and cutting and feeling the grass kind of cut and, having real dirt get on your jersey and things like that. I mean, there's all of that is there. That has always been our practice field, and really it was more of a rarity to go to the turf for practice. Up until 2020, we didn't have good turf on the TC Ching Athletic Complex. There was nuts and bolts and screws on there that you would find, and it was just not good. They let intramurals kind of have TC Ching Athletic Complex, and so the grass field was our place. Like, it was revered. You couldn't get on there unless you had football access. So they literally held it under lock and key. And I even remember as a walk-on looking for a spot to get some routes in with some other guys, and we would hop the fence to get on that practice field. And would get chased off by campus security. But that goes without saying. Yeah, all kinds of just fun stuff. I remember our junior year, Rolo's first year, we had a water balloon fight on that grass field, and Coach Naole grabbed one of the golf carts and had it going full speed over the hump between the grass field and the women's soccer field. There's like a 6-foot hump down, and Naole jumped that golf cart. I mean, we slowed it down on film because they were recording it for social media purposes, and Brother Man got it off the ground. So I think back to that specifically, and all the the plays that I was a part of up there, and I can only imagine that the countless others, like, that was special to the players, that grass field. That was our place. And yeah, I'm just gonna be transparent. I'm bummed that we're losing it. I really am. I know Manoa is pressed for facility space, pressed for space in general. And yeah, we got to take care of the Wahine track and Wahine soccer, because of Title IX. But it does hurt my heart a little bit that we're losing something that's so tied to the history of our program. I mean, that's football's field. So yeah, don't know exactly how I feel about it yet, to be honest, but yeah, aloha oi.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the program for many a decade just spent the majority of the time, right? I mean, Aloha Stadium was the exception. Yeah, Cook Field, I still remember it when it was like AstroTurf, right? Like literal, like something out of the 70s.
That's where all of our banners are, WAC champions.
Yeah, that's true.
2006, 2007, like that is our closest thing to like the Hall of Greatness, where our banners are being held there. I would love to see that transition over to the TC Ching Athletic Complex and make it feel just a little bit more like our space.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Yeah, that's right. It's on the fence line. like 2007 WAC champions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's where they spent the majority of the time. That's where you put in a lot of the off-season work. And so that's going to drum up a ton of those memories, right? Because anybody who's played, right, obviously the games are what stand out a ton, but when you look back, the practices, the workouts, the time you spend with your guys, like that's the majority of the time you spend together. Right, if you're on a field. I'm with you. The grass, like, Hawaii doesn't play a single game on grass, I think, this year, because I believe every road opponent, including Wyoming now, I guess for a while, Reno, Albuquerque, I don't think anybody has natural grass. Then obviously all the home games are at Ching, and all those years at Aloha Stadium as well. It was an artificial surface. And we've seen a lot of that talk right in the NFL about player safety and the NFLPA kind of pushing back on the artificial turf and whatnot. Like there's no replacement for grass. I don't know if we need to get into the medical debate or anything like that, but yeah, when
Why
we played,
places like Soldier Field and old Notre Dame Stadium and Lambeau, they're literally a dying commodity. That's why they're so special.
yeah, like the Rose Bowl, right, is
Yeah.
still one of the few. I think the Coliseum's in LA, where USC plays, is still grass as well. Like it's a rarity, like you said, and um, it'll be a different era for the University of Hawaii. And a little, we talk about space and things like that, and I'm not saying that the football team should take away from soccer and track or anything like that, but for football as well, right now you have fewer options, you have less space to practice as well, right? You're kind of limited to what you got at Ching. You can't spread out quite like the way you do over at the grass practice fields. And so
And with that, not to interrupt you, but it does limit what you can do at practice. I mean, QBs, especially a quarterback like Shager, to really let one rip, he's letting that thing fly like 65 yards. And when you consider where you're placing all of your guys in different drills and things like that, the grass field occupied more like 150 yards, almost 160. So there was space that you could put people full defense practice going on while offense is having a full practice with scout and things like that. It's difficult to do that on just 100-yard field kind of context there.
yeah, no, absolutely. Specialists, guys like that, right? You only got so much room for the kickers to put in work, the punters to put in work. It all factors in. I think it'll be pretty exciting once they start playing women's soccer games, Wahine soccer games on campus. But yeah, it's gonna be everybody accommodating, right? To help improve things down there. And some practice limitations at times for everybody involved. So that'll be interesting to see how things move forward. But yeah, I think it drummed up a lot of emotions for folks. Maybe they didn't know they had when it came to the grass practice field. Sounds like our guy Hunter included. All right, before we move on to the game time and get into last week's result against San Diego State, want to remind you that Hawaii Football Now is brought to you by Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. As Hawaii's largest credit union, they are committed to serving individuals and businesses through its 14 branch locations statewide and convenient digital banking services. As a leader in providing support for the islands, Hawaii USA is committed to strengthening Hawaii's financial wellness and sharing successes with members, local businesses, and the greater community. Visit hawaiiusafcu.com. All right, game time here on episode 112. Hawaii falling to San Diego State this past weekend at home on national TV as the Bows fall to 2-5 on the season, 0-2 in the Mountain West as the Aztecs defeat Hawaii 41-34 the final in this one. San Diego State covering as 6.5-point favorites. It goes way over the total of 53.5 for two teams that weren't necessarily lighting up the scoreboard in terms of points. They combined for 75 in this one. Hawaii now 2-4-1 against the spread, and the over is now 4-3 in Hawaii's 7 games. Hunter, another slow start, but the Bows put up their highest point total all season. They produced the most total yards of offense all season. The defense holds San Diego State to 3.7 yards per rush for a team that loves to run the football. That's very not bad. Like that's doing your job. They end up giving up basically 34 points, right, because of the pick six. Hawaii had just 2 penalties for 11 yards, clean that up. But ultimately a 17-0 hole right out of the gate. Stop me if that sounds familiar. And 4 turnovers and 21 San Diego State fourth quarter points kind of doom UH. This is a San Diego State team that averaged less than 20 points per game coming in. Hard to win when you're losing the turnover battle handily like that. Was it 4-1, 3 fumbles, the interception, and Hawaii just the one takeaway. Your thoughts, Hunter, on this one? It was kind of a weird one because it was massively disappointing in the way the thing turned out, but also I'm as encouraged as I've been in a while about a lot of things. It's a weird one. Your thoughts, my friend?
I mean, you said it perfectly, Jordan. Whenever we play San Diego State, it's weird. It's usually
Yeah,
sloppy.
yeah.
It's all over the place. But then there's like things that are positive. I was laughing with John Ursula on the sideline, just going, why are these San Diego State games always like this? They're usually won or lost in the trenches. Comes down to turnovers and ball security. Um, yeah, it was just, we should have won this game. It wasn't so much that San Diego State beat us as Hawaii lost it. I mean, if you consider how much more offense that we had than San Diego State, how quickly we can move the ball down the field, and then how detrimental some of those turnovers were at different points of the ball game, we could have had 50 points. And that's not a crazy speculation. We easily could have had another 17 points if you just throw a couple of Shipley field goals in there. We are definitely in this ball game late in the game, even with the 4 turnovers. I'd like to add that's not including a blocked punt, where you may not consider that a turnover per se, but from the sideline, it felt extremely sloppy. And everyone wants to, blame turnovers on somebody, maybe coaching, assignment. That's just good old fashioned not executing. And it is on you if you fumble the football. It's on you if you throw a pick six. It's on you if you botch a muffed punt. It's just there are definitely some things to look at as encouraging. That the fact that we only had 2 penalties is a huge step in the right direction. And defense played really well. I thought, Jordan. I thought defense did everything they could to keep us in that football game late. Felt like we could count on them for 3 and outs at different stages. But they just got tired. They got tired towards the end with how much that we really were leaning on them. And I don't want to make this a big vocal point of our San Diego State discussion, but I thought Timmy actually did a good job towards the end with clock management, deciding to kick that field goal, get the points on the board. Showed a lot of trust in Shipley, making that decision on second down. And I think he had like at least a 45-yarder. It was no chip shot. And Ship was true. You still have to roll the dice with the onside kick. And Timmy did all of that, putting us in a position with 3 timeouts still in pocket. So, you're going to be critiqued by how you handle crunch time, I think, until the cows come home. But he did everything, and I felt a lot of the coaches did too, did everything that they could to help us win that football game. And it's just one of those that, man, I think they wish they would have got another shot at.
Yeah, that's been a big topic of conversation, right? The way that the end of the game played out, Hawaii down 10 after San Diego State punches in a touchdown to go up double digits from 34-31 to 41-31. Hawaii driving a bit. Coach Chang decides to take a field goal. I think it was second down, if I remember correctly. 47-yard field goal, not a chip shot by any means, but it was basically right about a minute left, right? And Matt Shipley, who's been one of the most productive kickers in program history, I think you trust him in a lot of situations. Just go ahead and make that kick. They opted to do that, knowing they needed 10, right? You needed 2 scores. It doesn't matter what order they come in, whether it's touchdown, field goal, or field goal, touchdown. You know that you probably need an onside kick. You know that at least if you take the points at a certain juncture late in that fourth quarter, you probably can hold on to your timeouts, give yourself at least a couple of options to get the football back, right? Either onside kick or force a 3 and out, get it back with a little bit of time left. But you want to give yourself at least a manageable amount of time left, right? If you could get that 3 and out, you're probably looking at sub 40 seconds, somewhere around 30 seconds or something like that. And so I didn't have a huge I really didn't have any problem with it. Maybe could have run another play, kick it on third down, or run another couple of quick plays and see if you can get a little closer. Maybe take a shot at the end zone, see if you can't steal one. But of course, San Diego State's playing some off coverage, right? They've been run by all night. They're trying not to give up the play over the top there. And so instead of maybe throwing something underneath, buying a little more time just to get 5-10 more yards, like, look, we trust our kicker to hit from here at a pretty high clip. Let's just go ahead and kick it. Of course, a lot of this sort of exacerbated by Timmy's comments at the press conference after the game, sort of apologizing for doing it that way. I didn't really think he needed to apologize for anything. I thought they were playing to win the game. No doubt about that. You know, we've talked about it, like 6.5 was the number. I'm sure they're to the chagrin of a lot of people, right? It ends up at 7, but that's not something that a head coach is gonna think about in that situation. And I just thought you needed 10. You understand the math. You go ahead and do it. They didn't get the onside kick. They didn't get the 3 and out, and thus that was the game. And I think at that point, I'm with you. I thought it was fair game management, and I think if he had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change much of how he handled the last couple of minutes.
Oh, and any number of those 4 turnovers, we have the ball back, and we get maybe 3 points with that. I mean, or a touchdown. We're headed to overtime. So it's convenient to only focus on that when all of these other big moments led us to where we were. I mean, Shager having 450 yards basically should have resulted in much more points than what we ended up with 34. I mean, just honestly. And it felt like once we got aggressive in that second quarter and started sending our guys down the field and creating that layering in the middle of the field and in the flats, that was when we really started going. That's good old-fashioned run and shoot right there, Jordan. And McBride and Shager, that connection is starting to prove very profitable. I wonder, as we look ahead, I know we're still in San Diego State, but it's kind of been a tell for the season has been our inability to start with much aggression, and it takes a little while to get some momentum going for us, kind of opposite of last season. I'm almost wondering if it would behoove us just to take some shots early. If it is a 3 and out, hey, what the heck, it's no big deal. And we just kind of see where we're at, and because if it hits, hey, we're off and running.
Yeah, McBride could have run by that dude all night. I think in the game on Saturday, and kind of did, obviously, to the tune of 150 plus yards again, right? He's got back-to-back 150 games, 157 on 5 grabs for Stephen McBride, and had the long of 65. That's sort of been there a lot this season, right? Shager leads the country in 50-yard plus completions. I think he's got 9 or something like that
7
this season.
Yep.
Is it 7? Yeah, okay. So I know it leads the country. And so they've been a big play offense in that sense. Their problem has been consistency, staying on the field, picking up first downs. We saw much more of that this week, right? Some of the short passing game, especially early on, was really nice. Yeah, I'm with you. There's 3 or 4 plays that make a huge difference in this ball game. The block punt, obviously, early on. Defense holds really nicely, right? They force a 3 and out. It's a field goal because of the field position, but San Diego State really couldn't do anything with the block punt. They get the 3 points. Hawaii's all the way down at like the 30 when the pick 6 happens. That's Shager field goal range. We saw it later in the game, right? That's probably 3 points there. That's 6 points if you factor it all in, right? And so this is a Hawaii team that put together some of its best stretches, right? And then a defense that, again, played really well and gave up 20 through the 3 quarters, and we're holding San Diego State to not a whole lot on the ground, right? None of the big chunk plays, and then they wear down. The San Diego State had the ball 12 more minutes than Hawaii. And I think Hawaii's defense, right? We saw a couple of big pass plays. San Diego State took advantage of a short field in the fourth quarter as well because of a fumble. And so, I don't pin a whole lot of that on the defense, for maybe tiring out a little bit, for maybe being out there a little too long. With an offense that was explosive, but turned the football over, and that ultimately doomed them in, right? Hawaii outgains San Diego State 480 to 378, even though San Diego State ran 5 more plays. As we've talked about, Shager on 48 passes, completed 29 of them, threw for 427, and 3 touchdowns. San Diego State threw it for 221. A lot of that coming, what was that long completion, catch and run in the fourth quarter. Rushing the football, San Diego State a little bit over their average, 157 on the ground, but it took them 43 attempts, right? Under 4 yards per carry. Hawaii 53 yards on the ground, 3.8 yards per carry. Hawaii now like 57 yards per game on the ground. That's last in the country, 130 out of 130 in the FBS. But again, 2 penalties. Hawaii 6 of 12 on third down, 50%. 0-1 on third down. But you look at a lot of the numbers, and if you were to minimize those turnovers, man, it's a completely different football game. Najee Bryant-Lele had 4 carries for 24 yards. Landon Sims 6 for 10, and the 1 touchdown down there along the goal line. Brendan Shaker, we saw a little bit of him running the football as well, a little scramble, a little keep on his own read. Looked a little nimble out there. I was kind of impressed, and just enough, I think, to keep the defense honest. We talked about McBride, 5 for 157. Nick Senecal had a big game, 3 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. Pofele Ashlock, 8 grabs, 68 yards to touchdown. Pinocchio had 4 for 54. Kuali Nishigai, 3 for 11. Alex Perry caught the other touchdown pass, little fade ball down inside the 10-yard line. His lone catch for 8 yards and the touchdown. Tamatomo Mokiao Atimalala catch for 9 yards. Carson Papuno a catch for 6 yards, and then the 2 running backs, Jordan Johnson 2 for 7, and Landon Sims 1 for 7 in this one as well. We saw Steven Fiso get some run, and I believe a target out there as well. And so they spread the ball around. Guys were getting loose. Some of the deep ball, some of the underneath stuff, a lot of the sideline, right? Some of those corner routes. It looked pretty good, I'll say, right? And sure, you can get a little concerned about the rushing offense being last in the country. But like, if you're going to throw it for 400 yards a game, you don't need to run it a whole lot. Just enough to keep them off balance, just enough to make sure you're not over reliant on the pass. But man, it's just, I know we keep bringing it up, but that's as good as they've looked, I think. Even the Vanderbilt game's probably the other game where they looked in sync in the passing game as consistently throughout the game. But again, the turnovers are you're just not going to overcome that unless you're forcing as many on the other side of the football.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to look even better. At the beginning of the game, those guys were open, but the balls were getting tipped at the line of scrimmage. And
was it 3 of his first 4 or something?
That's right. They got batted at the line of scrimmage, and one of them almost got picked, like tipped high enough. A backer almost came in and dove and got it. Those were open routes, good decisions, and Braden got the ball out of his hands quickly. It just we weren't able to execute on those. So I bring that up because who knows what those drives would have come from, would have established into had they not gotten tipped a little bit. So that's just part of the game.
It is. That's a good point. I had kind of forgotten about those tipped balls early on because the game took so many darn twists and turns. But that's part of the factor, right? The slow starts. Like I'm sure you guys have talked about it on the radio. Got a chance to talk to the guys on Sports Animals yesterday, and that was part of their conversation, right? How does Hawaii start faster? And my thing was, I wish I knew, right? Because I think the coaches are still trying to figure that out 7 games in as well. Hawaii's been outscored 147-64 in the first half this season. and that includes 76-17 in the first quarter. Hawaii's been shut out in the first quarter in 4 straight games, outscored 48-0, and have trailed at the half in 6 of the 7 games this season. And of course, the one game they didn't trail was tied, right? The U Albany game, what was it, 14-14 or 17-17 or something like that. The first win of the season, that was a tie ball game at half. So they haven't had the lead at halftime in any of their games. They put up 34. Probably could have put up a little bit more even, right? Obviously, they settled for the field goal there, even with all the turnovers and everything. After not scoring in the first, that's a 3-quarter production. If they're scoring 34 in 3 quarters, right? Just a field goal, a touchdown, or anything in the first quarter, and all of a sudden you're north of 40 very quickly. And then obviously, falling behind, right? 17-0 this week against UNLV. They were down 20-3 at halftime. Just these huge holes. And then they're playing from behind, and then maybe they it's hard to establish the run game when you're trying to play catch up so often, right? And I think that's part of the factor as to why they're last in the nation in rushing. But it is a reason why they've been able to, kind of air it out a little bit more and really throw things on Shager's shoulders. And that's looked good, obviously. But yeah, you can throw things up against the wall. Hey, try to take more shots early on. Try to practice it, right? Like start practice with tempo periods where you're ingraining that in, or whatever it is, right? It's something that I think is probably driving Coach Chang and his staff sleepless at times. Just trying to figure out a way, man. Just start the game. You don't even have to start it fast. Just start it in neutral. Like they're starting going in reverse so often. Just figure out a way to play first quarters even, right? 48-0 in the last 4 games, 76-17 in the first quarter for the season. Trailing at halftime basically every game. It's hard to win football games, and it's way harder to win football. It's way harder to win football games if that's what you're facing every week.
Yeah, you run out of time. That was the first thing that Timmy brought up to me in the halftime interview. Jordan was, man, we just can't get it going early enough, can we? And they're aware of it. I think they're trying whatever they can. I think we've hit on all of the kind of critique moments. I think it's important at this point in this this junction of the season to focus on the wins a little bit and think about where we can go from here, because statistically our destiny's still a little bit in front of us. Yes, we've got some tough opponents later in the year, but we got to win this one against New Mexico and rewrite the ship and just see what happens. I think to keep momentum moving forward and the vibes as positive as we can, Jordan, that's kind of where we find ourselves.
Yeah, it's, again, you can spin it and be like, look, this is really encouraging, right? And you pointed this out last week. This stretch of the season is make or break. Like this 4-game stretch will determine whether or not Hawaii goes bowling, whether or not Hawaii has, a productive season, because it's 4 very winnable games, 2 on the road, 2 at home. New Mexico this coming week is one of those games. San Jose State in 2 weeks is one of those games, and then up to Reno to take on Nevada first week of November is the 4th of those games, right? 3-1 in that stretch, you got a fighting chance, right? 3-1 in that stretch, and all of a sudden you're at 5-5 basically going into the final 3 games of the year. Going 3-1 when you lose the first of those 4 games makes it a little tougher, right? 4-0 there would have put them in great position, but you're looking obviously at Wyoming, Colorado State, and Air Force at the back end, ranked Air Force, by the way, undefeated Air Force, that played a great game against Wyoming this past weekend. And so this is where you kind of keep the faith, if you will, if you're in that locker room, and obviously if you're one of the fans as well, because clean some things up. They're a better football team than they've showed at times. I think they've been very much what they've shown at times, but I think we saw a little bit of a leap this past Saturday. And look, it's an opponent that is a little more their ilk than some of the others, right? San Diego State's nowhere near UNLV. They're nowhere near Wyoming and Air Force, I think, coming up. But the middle tier, if you will, of the middle to bottom tiers of the Mountain West, Hawaii can be there. And New Mexico coming up this weekend is very much in that bottom tier, if you will. And so for Hawaii, this you gotta have this one up in Albuquerque, and we'll get into that when we return. A whole lot more coming your way as we continue on Hawaii Football Now, episode 112. We'll be back.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, back here on Hawaii Football Now, episode 112, second half time for us, Jordan and Hunter, along with you. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Back on the YouTube this week. If you're tuning in on any of the other platforms and want to head back over to the friendly confines of YouTube, feel free to do that. Drop us a line, as always, as well. You can hit us up on really any of the social media or media platforms for ESPN Honolulu. Back on the road this week, Hawaii at New Mexico. That's a noon Hawaii kickoff time. Again, you can listen to all of the coverage right here on ESPN Honolulu. Veneri Brothers will be up there in Albuquerque, and you can watch it on Spectrum pay-per-view television as well. In this one, Hawaii actually a 1-point favorite coming in, and that may tell you all you need to know about New Mexico. Hawaii at 2-5 is a road favorite in conference. This one opened as a pick'em and has since moved to Hawaii -1. So some of the money flowing in the Bows way there. The total is 60.5 in this ball game. But again, Hawaii favored on the road against a conference opponent. Not many teams that would be the case against, but it is against the Lobos. The Lobos 2-4 so far this season, also 0-2 in the Mountain West, just like Hawaii. Their wins against UMass and Tennessee Tech, kind of like Hawaii, right? Wins against New Mexico State and an FCS team in Albany. In fact, the lone common opponent so far this season for Hawaii and UNM is New Mexico State. New Mexico State losing to, New Mexico losing to New Mexico State in that huge rivalry matchup. New Mexico also losing at Texas A&M, at Wyoming in a pretty respectable game. They actually played the Cowboys pretty tough. Lost that one 35-26. It was 32-26, was less than half a quarter to go. It was a one-score game. In a game that Wyoming kind of controlled, but New Mexico was able to hang around. And then that was 2 weeks ago. And then last week, things kind of just fell off the rails. Losing at home against Chevan Cordero and San Jose State 52-24. Just got boat raced by the Spartans there. They had 15 penalties against San Jose State. Interesting note, New Mexico is amongst the country leaders in penalties, but their games also result in, they're like the most penalized games of any games around the country, if that makes sense. Like any game that they play in, the other team also commits a lot of penalties. It's like this weird statistical anomaly. Like, yes, they commit a lot of penalties, but everybody they play also like has an uptick in penalties committed. So hopefully Hawaii can maybe buck that trend, and they're trending in the right direction, obviously, at just 2 penalties last week. 27th all-time meeting here between the Lobos and the Bows as Hawaii leads the all-time series 16-10. It's been a little while since they met, right? You remember that empty COVID Halloween game at Aloha Stadium, Hawaii winning 39-33 against New Mexico. Is that the game Jared Smart like climbed the elevator in the corner of the end zone? I don't know if you remember this, Hunter. So. On like a 2-point conversion or something like that. Boy, that was a long time ago with Chevan Cordero at quarterback in Todd Graham's first year in charge of the program on their way to that 4-4 conference finish. Your thoughts, Hunter, on this game? This is one, again, we talked about it at length, the 4-game stretch. This is game 2 of that, all winnable games. This may be the most winnable. You could make the argument Reno in a couple of weeks. That's another road trip, though, for Hawaii. Hawaii is 0-9 on the road over the last 2 seasons. 0-9 under Coach Chang on the road. New Mexico has lost 14 straight Mountain West Conference games and 20 straight Mountain West Conference home games. And thus, the team that's 0-9 on the road under their current head coach is favored by 1 point on Saturday. So who ends some of the misery here, Hunter?
Man, this is what at this point of the season for both New Mexico and Hawaii, it's kind of the tale of two subpar teams. I think that's fair. I think that's just where we find ourselves. And I've been on teams at Hawaii in similar situations to right now. And when you have two not great teams going up against each other with, at this point, not a lot to fight for, you end up fighting against each other. And so I like how you said the games kind of follow New Mexico's tendency to have a lot of penalties. I would love for our position coaches to kind of preach that to our guys, because we cannot stoop to their level. It's happened at different points of this season where we've kind of gone down. That UAlbany game was chippy. Same with that New Mexico State game was chippy. And it's unnecessary, Jordan. And we didn't play to our potential this last week against San Diego State, and we don't have an excuse to not play to our potential against New Mexico. They're not a good team. We should win this game, but it will come down to if we want to go out there and get it or not. It's truly that simple. I completely agree with you. Outside of the trip to Nevada in a few weeks' time, like, this is as permanent of a marker circle that you can have on our schedule that we need this one, boys. We need it. I think a lot of coaches' jobs are probably at stake if we don't win this one. Yes, we don't do well on the road, but come on, man. It's New Mexico. Let's go get it. They don't have a great offense. I don't really know what else to say. Like, we are way more talented than these guys, capable of scoring more points, have better athletes, even though they do have a couple here and there. They've got a couple of sizable receivers on the outside, but I'm not even really giving that much mind. Like, this is Hawaii's game. We got to go out there and get it.
Yeah, they've got some guys, right? They've got a pretty good running back in Ja'Cory Bill, goes by, I think, Krosky Merritt. He's kind of their bell cow. Dylan Hopkins is the quarterback, although Devin Dampier came on in relief and provided a pretty big spark for New Mexico the other game. And then they've got 4 receivers with over 10 catches. DJ Washington with 3 touchdowns, and Caleb Medford is their big play threat. He averages over 20 yards per catch. They score it a decent amount. Like, they average about 29 points per game. Part of that is aided by the 56 I think they dropped on Tennessee Tech, but they allow 30 a game, right? So defensively, they're not great. They run it for 169. They throw it for 215. They're kind of that spread option offensive look they've been doing for a few years now. They allow 151 on the ground and 244 through the air. They allow 395 total offense, and production wise, they usually average, or they do average, about 384 and a half yards per game. So very kind of even numbers across. Like, their production is often negated about what they give up the other way. For Hawaii, a lot of it's cleaning up the things that have just held them back, right? When you look at it, we Hawaii ranking last in the country in rushing offense, number 130 out of 130 FBS teams, averaging 57.7 yards per game. They're also 128th in turnover margin, -9. They've got 4 takeaways and 13 turnovers. And so that's, look, just play that neutral, get some of the production they've gotten offensively. I think if that defense plays with the fire that we saw early on against San Diego State, like I think Hawaii's going to be in a good spot. I like Hawaii here. And I like Hawaii kind of confidently. If we get the same team that we saw this past weekend, minus the turnovers, just cut back on that a little bit. Just take care of the football a little bit better. Play the disciplined football where they're not committing penalties. I think they're the better team, right? And that's more a comment on Hawaii than it is New Mexico. Although, as you pointed out, the Lobos aren't great. Head coach Danny Gonzalez is in his fourth year, 9-28 overall. He's got a new defensive coordinator. Remember, Rocky Long kind of went back to help him out a little bit after leaving San Diego State. He's now the defensive coordinator over at Syracuse with our guy Dino Babers. But it's one of those games, man. Like, you can kind of break this thing down. I think Hawaii's the better football team. I think they've got the more explosive offense. I think Hawaii's got a defense that can limit what New Mexico State wants to do. And I think New Mexico State will probably score some points. They're not a team that's necessarily put up duds on offense at any point this season. But I think it's a game kind of like we saw last week with San Jose State. If Hawaii can score regularly, I think they can run away from this team. Maybe not to the tune of 52-24 like last week. But I think Hawaii could put up some points, some significant points in this ball game. And I think that is the recipe for success. Go and score a lot, force New Mexico to keep up, and let that defense kind of do its thing for the Bows. And so, the total of 60.5, I think that's, if you want to look at that, probably looking at the over. And again, if Hawaii can maybe just score any first quarter points, they can really rack up the points here. But yeah, I think this is one the Bows should get, and it's one I'm with you. They probably got to get.
Man, yeah, this is we're running out of disposable time on our schedule. We are officially now over the halfway hump. Now that we have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we've played 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
We got 6 remaining. So
downhill from here.
Downhill from here, baby. I think if I was in that coach's room, the meeting room, I would just communicate to the guys, continue to do your 111th. Continue to do your job, be assignment perfect. It's almost like when your round of golf isn't going super well, Jordan, all you can control is the next swing. That's all you can control. Don't really care where the swing goes. Let's just find one in rhythm and see where we go from there. And similarly with where we're at in this season, let's string a pass together. Make one turn into 2. Get a drive going. Let's get some. I'm also very, very I'm very, very hopeful that this could be a game that we get some turnovers from our defense. That's been a big source of concern on this season. It's tough to win football games if your defense isn't coming up with the ball. I would love for this to kind of be a turning point. And if we want to make a bowl win, I think this game against New Mexico State needs to be one of those. And I know our stats on the road aren't great and blah, blah, blah. But this right now is that Kairos moment, is the point of the season that we have to look to and say we got to turn around right now.
I'm with you. This is a nice little pivotal time. A third win would be real nice coming back home. Do you factor in the travel and the altitude at all? Right, Hawaii's kind of been in this routine now where they are, home away, and back on the road this week. And obviously Albuquerque, it's like 40 something hundred feet in the air. It's one of the higher elevation games that they will play. Noon kickoff Hawaii times, was that 4 Mountain. And so does that factor in to your analysis here, Hunter?
I'm not giving us any of that as an excuse. I think we're out of excuses right now. I think this is one of those games that we must have, not that we should have. It's that we must have. This is, in my opinion, one of the worst teams in the conference. The fact that ESPN has them ranked above us right now in Mountain West standings, I would tape that, put that on a piece of paper and tape it to every guy's locker room or everybody's locker and say, look at how they are thinking of New Mexico compared to Hawaii. They are not better than us. You going to do something about it? Are you going to allow them to put New Mexico in front of Hawaii? Like I want to see, pardon my language, I want to see a pissed off Hawaii team in this game. We have lacked spirit on the sideline for a number of games right now. We saw it a little bit in the San Diego State game where in the fourth quarter we battled back and we were up 24-20 in that game. Obviously, we know how the game went from there, but we need a charged spirit into this Hawaii team to go out there and get one this weekend. And any way possible that this coaching staff can get that accomplished, I think I say go for it.
Yeah, let it all out there, right? It's one of those games, man. Go after it, get after it, and hopefully they can come home with a win. It would build a lot of momentum, right? Going into next week's game against San Jose State. Is next week homecoming? Do I have that right?
It is against San Jose. Against
San Jose State, yeah. Next week homecoming. So that'd be a nice little boost heading into that, and obviously the reunion with Chevin Cordero there as well. All right, again, noon kickoff on Saturday, Hawaii time. ESPN Honolulu radio will have you covered for all of that, and then Spectrum Television covering that one as well. We'll see if Hawaii can pull out the win. We'll see if Hawaii can come back home with a little boost heading up into the final half of the season. All right, quick little 2-minute drill before we head out of here. Just wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't already, you can get your tickets for the UH St. Mary's charity exhibition game on Friday, men's basketball at Stan Sheriff Center, 7:00 tip there. That'll be for a great cause, obviously, as a Maui benefit relief. St. Mary's is good. They're number 23 in the preseason AP poll. They return 2 of their starters from last year, really 3, and like 4 of their top 6 rotation guys for a team that went to the second round of the NCAA tournament. So if you got a chance to go check it out, not only is it a great opportunity to support obviously a very important cause, helping out with some of the Maui relief efforts, but it's a great chance to preview not only the University of Hawaii men's basketball squad, a team that could contend in the Big West once again this season, and chance to see some of the new faces. I imagine exhibition game, right? We'll see a lot of those faces. And then also a chance to check out one of the better teams in the country, definitely one of the better teams on the West Coast. St. Mary's actually picked to win in the preseason coaches poll, picked to win the West Coast Conference over Gonzaga this year. It was basically split like right down the middle. It was like 1 point separating, but they are the preseason number 1 pick to win the West Coast Conference there. So wanted to kind of remind everybody of that. But before we head out of here, Hunter, we'll give the final word, the final thoughts to you.
Oh man. Yeah, to the Hawaii faithful, and you are that if you are still listening to this podcast, stick with it, hold the faith. We have great coaches in place. We are in these games, and it's not over yet in this season. It's not. There's still a lot to look forward to, a lot of great matchups where we got a nationally ranked opponent in a few weeks. Keep coming. The ambiance and the experience down on the field was fantastic this last week. We had a fourth down stand, Jordan, that when they announced it, I mean, the eruption was by far the loudest I've heard TC Ching Athletic Complex this last game. So we love you guys and are thankful that you're a part of this. Be part of what Hawaii is trying to build right now, because the effort is there, and time will tell. So yeah, final words from me.
Yeah, I like it, man. You heard it from the guy himself. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll see you next week right here on Hawaii Football Now. We'll see you next week down at Ching as well for homecoming as San Jose State comes to town. Big opportunity this week for the Bows. We'll see if they can pick up the win. Slight favorite on the road in Albuquerque against the New Mexico Lobos. All right, that'll do it for us. Big thanks to Spectrum Mobile. Big thanks to Hawaii USA Federal Credit Union. And big thanks to Battery Bill. As always, big shout out to my guy Hunter and our guy Jaron for putting this all together, producing this podcast. We'll see you guys next week, everybody. Aloha.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.